H.O.A. built 3 homes on my land when I was serving the country. This whole story sounds fake. I wish it were. If this hadn't happened to me, I'd be calling bull on it too. But for 3 years, this was my life, my nightmare, and ultimately my multi-million-dollar payday. My name is, let's call me Jack. I'm Army, E7, Sergeant First Class. I've spent more of my adult life on deployment than I have on U.S. soil. That's just the job. Back in 2015, my grandparents passed away and left me their property in their will. It was 10 acres of beautiful, undeveloped land in a state that was rapidly growing. My granddad was a tough old bird, and he'd held on to this land for 50 years. "Don't ever let those vultures from the city take this, Jack," he'd told me, pointing at the new development popping up a mile away. The property was T-shaped. The top of the T was 2-acre parcel with my grandparents' old, small but solid brick house. It fronted a main road. The stem of the T was 8 acres of dense woods and rolling hills that ran back and connected to a quiet county road. It was my slice of heaven. My plan was to retire there, build a log cabin on the hill in the back, and live quietly. In 2017, I got my orders for a 24-month deployment. It was a big one. No regular internet, spotty mail, a quote, go dark, unquote kind of assignment. I did my due diligence. I hired a property management company run by a local guy, Mr. Henderson. The instructions were crystal clear. Check on the old house once a week, keep the grass on the front 2 acres mowed, and pay the property taxes from an account I'd funded. The back 8 acres, well, woods. You don't need to mow woods. I signed the papers, packed my rucksack, and flew out. For 2 years, I was in hell. Long, stressful months of 18-hour days. The only thing that kept me sane was the picture in my head of that 10-acre slice of home. I flew back into the States in 2019. After demobilizing, I got in my truck, which had been in storage, and started the 4-hour drive to my property. I was so excited I could barely sit still. I was dreaming of a cold beer on the old porch, of walking the woods, of finally being home. I decided to skip the main road and go to the back entrance. I turned onto the quiet county road that led to the back of my property. I was planning to use the old hidden service road to drive through the woods. My old service road. It should be right here, only it wasn't there. In its place was a paved 2-lane road. It looked brand new. There was a brand new, disgustingly beige sign that read, "Welcome to Willow Creek Estates, Phase 2." My blood went cold. Willow Creek was the cookie-cutter H.O.A. community that had been built next to my land. Their Phase 1 bordered the east side of my property. I hated them, but they kept to their side. Until now. I drove down this new road, my road, through my woods, or what used to be my woods. They had cut down a 50-foot wide swath of 100-year-old oak trees. I felt sick. I saw mailboxes, new addresses, and then I saw them. 3 brand new 4,000-square-foot vinyl-sided McMansions, all painted in slightly different shades of, quote, greige, unquote. They were built on the prettiest hill on my land, the exact spot I had picked out for my own cabin. They had brand-new sod lawns, sprinklers were running. A for sale sign was in front of the 3rd house. The first 2 had cars in the driveway. I didn't just see red, I went numb. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I parked my truck in the middle of the new road, got out, and walked to the first house. I hammered on the door. A guy my age, wearing a polo shirt, opened it. He was holding a baby. "Can I help you?" I pointed at the ground. "You're on my land." He laughed, a nervous, confused laugh. "What? No, I'm not. I bought this house in February. This is Willow Creek Phase 2. Willow Creek, I said, my voice dangerously quiet, is a half-mile that way. This is my property. You have 30 seconds to explain what you're doing here before I call the cops. The guy, we'll call him Chad, went pale. He stammered. I bought it from the developer, through the H.O.A. Please, my kid's inside. Don't threaten me. Look, I have the deed. He ran inside and came back with a welcome packet and a deed. It all had the Willow Creek H.O.A. logo on it. It looked official, but it was for my land. I realized Chad wasn't the problem. He was a victim, just like me. Who is the H.O.A. president? That's how I met Brenda. Oh, Brenda. She was exactly what you picture. Mid-50s, expensive haircut that looked like a helmet, blazer, designer purse, and a voice that could curdle milk. I walked into the community clubhouse in Phase 1. It was one of those tacky, new money buildings with too many columns out front. I walked in, still in my combat boots and my travel-rumpled uniform. I was tired, jet-lagged, and running on pure, uncut rage. I'm not proud of it, but I didn't knock. I slammed the door open. Brenda was in a meeting with 2 other board members. "Who are you?" she snapped, standing up. "This is a private meeting for members." "I'm Jack. You built 3 homes on my land." She didn't even blink. She smiled. It was the most terrifying shark-like smile I've ever seen. "Oh, you're the soldier. We were wondering when you'd show up." My brain blue-screened. You knew?" "We knew the property was abandoned. It was a blight, overgrown, full of snakes. It was dragging our property values down. We have a duty to uphold values. We did what was best for the community." "You stole my land. That's not what's best. That's a felony." "Now you listen here," she said, pointing a manicured finger at me. "We filed for an annexation due to abandonment. We sent you certified letters. You never responded." "I was in a combat zone. I can't get certified mail." "That's not my problem," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "You should have made arrangements. As far as we're concerned, that land was forfeit. We annexed it, paid the back taxes you owed." "I didn't owe back taxes. A company was paying them." "Well, they didn't pay the new H.O.A. assessment fees for your blighted property, so we put a lien on it, and then we foreclosed. It was all perfectly legal. Now, the developer has built 3 beautiful homes, and our community is thriving. You should be thanking us." I was going to jail. I was 100% going to strangle this woman. I took a deep breath, picturing my drill sergeant. "Brenda, you foreclosed on a lien that you created on a property you don't own for fees I'm not obligated to pay while I was on active duty deployment? Is that what you're telling me?" "It's done," she said, dismissing me with a wave. "If you have a problem, you can talk to our lawyer. In fact, you're trespassing on H.O.A. property right now. Please get out. Your uniform is upsetting the residents." I turned and walked out. I got in my truck, drove to the county courthouse, and sat there until my hands stopped shaking. Then I hired the best lawyer in the state. Let's call him the Shark, unquote. His office was quiet, professional, and had a library that smelled of old books and leather. When I told him the story, he didn't get angry. He just got very, very quiet and started taking notes. "Jack," he said when I was done, "I'm going to take this case on contingency, but you need to understand, this is not a simple property dispute. This is a conspiracy to commit fraud. Real, quote, go to jail, unquote, fraud." He leaned forward. "They broke state law, Jack, But more importantly, they broke federal law. The Service Members Civil Relief Act, or SCRA. It's a law specifically designed to protect people like you from, well, people like Brenda. You cannot foreclose on an active duty service member, period. The first thing he did was file an emergency injunction and a liens pendens on all 3 properties, including the for sale one, halting all transactions. Then we dug. Our first stop was the county registrar. We found the foreclosure. We found the lien. We found the quitclaim deed where the H.O.A. sold my land to the developer for $1. Who's the developer? I asked. The shark pointed at the name. And who's the judge who signed the default judgment? The shark pointed at another name, Judge Polak. I know Polak, the shark said, his voice grim. He's Brenda's brother-in-law. And the developer? I asked. Let me guess, the shark said. He made a call. Yep, her other brother-in-law. This isn't just fraud, Jack. This is a family-run conspiracy. We also found that Brenda had personally filed the blight complaints. And my property manager, Mr. Henderson, he had records, time-stamped photos of the mowed front lawn proving the property was maintained. He had even called the H.O.A. once to ask why their trucks were on my service road, and Brenda told him I had sold the land and to mind his own business. When the shark filed the federal lawsuit citing the SCRA, all hell broke loose. The bank that gave the developer the construction loan panicked. The title insurance company panicked. The 2 families who bought the houses panicked. Suddenly, it wasn't just me versus the H.O.A., it was a legal Royal Rumble. Brenda's deposition was a sight to behold. It was in a sterile conference room. Me, the shark, Brenda, her lawyer, the bank's lawyer, the title company lawyer, and the developer's lawyer. Brenda was arrogant, defiant, and smug. Her lawyer kept telling her to just answer yes or no, but she couldn't help herself. Lawyer: Mrs. Brenda, were you aware Mr. Jack was on active duty military deployment? We were aware he was gone. It's not my job to be his travel agent. So you knew he was an active duty service member? I knew he was in the Army. He had a bumper sticker. Big deal? You sent certified letters. Where were they sent? To the property's address, of course. Where else would we send them? To an empty house, which you knew was empty. That's not my problem. And you were aware of the SCRA? The what? The Service Members Civil Relief Act, a federal law. I am the president of a homeowners association, not a congressman. We follow the community bylaws. He was in violation. In violation of what? His trees were too, quote, tree-like, unquote. It was an eyesore. It was unkempt. We have a standard to maintain. We did him a favor. That land is worth 10 times what it was. The shark then pulled out the statute. Are you familiar with Title 50 U.S. Code, Section 39, which states that a default judgment is invalid against a service member if entered during their period of service, a law that has been on the books in one form or another since the Civil War? Brenda's lawyer put his head in his hands. The shark cut his eyes to the bank's lawyer, who was suddenly very busy writing a note. The case was a slam dunk. The judge voided the foreclosure, the sale, everything. His ruling was scathing. He called it a predatory and illegal seizure of property and an embarrassment to the county. The 8-acre parcel and the 3 $800,000 houses sitting on it reverted to me, free and clear. I now owned 3 McMansions. The courtroom exploded. The developer went white. The bank's lawyer looked like he was going to be sick. The 2 families who had bought the houses were in tears. Brenda was screaming. This is an outrage. You can't do this. We improved that land. He doesn't deserve them. We built this community. He owes us. He stole those houses. The judge banged his gavel. "Ma'am, you are the one who perpetrated a massive criminal fraud against a man serving his country. You built nothing. You stole. The only reason I'm not recommending the DA file criminal charges is because of the civil penalties I'm about to award. Be quiet." She shut up. So I owned the houses, but the families, Chad and the other one, were still in them. They were good people. They'd sunk their life savings into these homes. I wasn't going to be Brenda. I wasn't going to evict them. So we had another meeting, this time with the families, the bank, the now bankrupt developer, and the title insurance company, who were on the hook for guaranteeing the titles were clean, which they weren't. And, of course, the H.O.A. Their lawyers looked like they hadn't slept in a week. The shark laid it out. "My client," he said, "is the sole legal owner of these structures. He holds all the cards. He is entitled to do with them as he wishes. He could bulldoze them. He could rent them. He could evict the current occupants." The families flinched. "But," the shark continued, "he is a reasonable man. He is willing to sell the properties to the current occupants at their full current market value." The families looked sick. They couldn't afford to buy their houses twice. "And," the shark said, "my client shouldn't have to pay for this. So here's what's going to happen. The title insurance company is going to pay my client the full market value of all 3 homes. Let's call it $2.4 million. In exchange, my client will find the deeds over to the homeowners, making their titles clean." The title insurance lawyers screamed, "That's insane! We're not paying for all 3. The third house is empty." "You are," the shark said calmly, "because if you don't, we'll just file the writs of ejectment, take possession of all 3 houses, and you will be on the hook for your clients, the homeowners, entire losses, plus their legal fees, plus their mortgages, plus their emotional distress. Your choice. Pay the $2.4 million or pay triple that." They caved. "We are not done," the shark said. "My client was displaced for 8 months during this legal battle. He suffered immense emotional distress. His property was destroyed. His retirement plans are ruined." He turned to the H.O.A.'s lawyers. "The Willow Creek H.O.A. and its board members personally," this is when Brenda passed out, "will be paying my client $1 million in punitive damages and $500,000 for the destruction of his land, plus all his legal fees." The H.O.A.'s insurance policy covered some of it. The rest, the H.O.A. had to issue a special assessment to every single homeowner in Willow Creek, every one. Of those 200 homes had to pay a one-time fee of over $5,000 to cover Brenda's fraud. It caused a civil war in the community. The fallout was glorious. Brenda was not only removed, she was sued by the H.O.A. She and her developer brother-in-law were forced to sell their own homes to pay for their part of the damages. They were ruined. The judge, her other brother-in-law, was forced into retirement after a judicial review. The 2 families got to keep their houses with 100% clean titles, all paid for by the title insurance company. Chad came by and shook my hand almost in tears and thanked me for not throwing his family on the street. And me? I got a check for $3.9 million plus legal fees. I sold the third for sale house, which the title company also paid me for, and made another $850,000. I paid off the old brick house on the front 2 acres, and I kept it as a rental. Then I took my millions, and I bought 200 acres on a lake on the other side of the state, far, far away from any H.O.A. I built my log cabin. It's 3,000 square feet. It's got a 4-car garage, a boat dock for my 22-foot bass boat, and a fiber optic internet line fast enough to stream 4 movies at once. I still drive by the old place sometimes. The spite in it is mostly faded, but I can't help but smile when I see the Willow Creek sign. They have a new rule in their bylaws. It's item 14.8. No board member may, under any circumstances, attempt to annex, lien, or otherwise molest an adjacent property, especially if the owner is protecting this country. I call that the, quote, Jack, unquote, rule.